Now, the Bank of England has raised interest rates to 3%, the biggest single hike in more than 30 years. And we're joined by the money-saving expert, our very own Martin Lewis.
Morning, Martin.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, look, let's start with this interest rate rise. Can you just explain to everybody what it will mean for our mortgages, Martin?
Well, for mortgages, if you're on a variable or discount or tracker rate mortgages, you're going to see it pretty quickly a rise in what you pay. My rule of thumb for how much you'll go up on a typical repayment mortgage is expect to pay around £40 a month more per £100,000 of mortgage. So if you've got a £200,000 mortgage, that would be £80 a month. Another way of saying it is around just under £500 a month more per £100,000 of mortgage. And of course, this is on top of the other rises that have been in place. If you're on a fixed rate mortgage, well, your mortgage rate is fixed, so you won't see any change. What you will see is, what you absolutely need to be prepared for is you need to know the date when your fixed rate mortgage is going to end. I would start preparing 3 to 6 months before that happens and looking at what you can do then. Be under no uncertain terms, though. Anyone who's fixed over the last couple of years needs to be expecting to pay very substantially more when their current fix comes to an end. So preparing your finances for that rate shock when it does happen is really important right now.
Other papers are reporting this morning that we're heading into a recession that could be the worst for decades, some even saying for 100 years, and could go on for at least 2 years. I imagine everybody watching this morning just feels sick to their stomach when you see that. I know you've warned of those problems. Is it just inevitable now? Is there anything we can do to insulate ourselves at this point, or are we just helpless, really?
I think we have to be slightly careful about this term recession. Recession, the way it is used, it implies terrible things for everybody. Clearly, it is not a good scenario. But first of all, we're already in recession. This has already happened, you know, or as near as damn it. Recession means the economy is contracting. Now, look. This all depends on each individual circumstance. You asked me on interest rate about mortgages, of which the interest rate rise is bad. We could also talk about savers. And there are many millions. People may be surprised if they look at their own circumstances and think, who's got savings? Actually, there are many millions of people who have savings accounts. £190 billion of extra savings was built up during the pandemic. And for those people, interest rate rises are good, although you have to become an active saver because most big banks will not be putting up savings rates. You have to go about and find the best rates. Most people are sitting on less than 1% interest right now when they could be earning up to 5% interest. I went in detail through that on my show on Tuesday night. You can watch it back on the ITV Hub for what you need to be doing on that. And the same is true of the economy. Look, for those who are sitting in stable work, yes, you might have a squeeze on the amount of pay rise you get compared to the cost of inflation, which will mean life isn't quite as easy as it was, but it should still be absolutely fine to get through. For others, if we do have economic contraction and people start to lose their jobs and unemployment starts to go up and the cost of living crisis continue to go on and energy prices don't come down and the price cap when we get to April is reintroduced at the level of, for somebody on typical bills, and nobody's on typical bills, but just as an illustration, goes up to around £4,200 from the current £2,500, it's going to be an absolute blooming nightmare. But it isn't the idea that this is something that affects everybody equally. It certainly doesn't. It isn't something that is disastrous for everybody. It isn't, but it is disastrous for some. And that's why in policy making, what's important right now when you talk about how we contain this or how we look at it, what I would be urging the people who make policy is to look at what we do to mitigate the damage for those who are most vulnerable to to recessionary shocks and to cost of living shocks. My genuine fear is not so much for this winter. There are people who are going to be vulnerable and going to struggle this winter, as there always have been, and probably more of them this winter. But we've got things put in place, such as the price guarantee, the £650 for people on benefits, the £400 winter energy payment, the £150 for people on disabilities, the £300 for pensioners, and other measures are in place to get through this winter. My genuine concern is what happens next April, when the price guarantee ends on energy, when we're expecting to see mortgage rates probably at their peak and interest rates at their peak. Lots of people will be coming off fixes at that point. That's likely to feed through to the rental market. And so what's really important is that we hear on the 17th of November that the government have put plans in place to mitigate that damage to the individuals when it happens. And that isn't about a giant bailout package, but it's about we need to look at how we work with regulations and regulators and what we do to make sure that people have rights so that we can weather the storm that is coming. It isn't going to be easy, but it can be weathered. But prior planning is what is important for that.
Martin, as ever, it's great to have you. I know we need to let you go as you're a very busy man, but we appreciate your thoughts and your time this morning. Good to see you.